A new report suggests that a China Eastern flight that crashed in March may have been intentionally crashed by someone in the cockpit. The Wall Street Journal says a preliminary assessment of black box data shows that a human had to put in the directions to make the Boeing 737 MAX take its steep dive into the ground. I want to bring in Justin Green. He's an aviation attorney and former president of the International Air and Transportation Safety Bar Association. He has extensive experience flying multiple planes, and we should note he did represent families in a lawsuit against Boeing after a 737 MAX crash in Ethiopia in 2021. Justin, great to see you here. I put this up first so people can see just how rapidly this plane descended. Here's an animation. So again, people can see the steep dive this took. And the Wall Street Journal reports includes this quote today, which I think is what's raising so much alarm. The plane did what it was told to do by someone in the cockpit. How would they be able to tell that?
Well, the first thing I want to say is the investigation is still continuing. Everything is still preliminary at this point. But what's kind of been released is the black box data. There's two black boxes in the airplane. The flight data recorder, and that's the data that's saying the pilot is pushing forward or causing what happened. At this point, we have some very important evidence. We have the radar data that you showed up before. We have video. We also have communications. But what we don't have right now is a readout of the cockpit voice recorder. Now, the flight data recorder, as the Wall Street Journal said, will show what the pilots did. The cockpit voice recorder will indicate why they did what they did.
Or what they talked about while they were doing it, correct?
And also whether someone from the cabin broke into the cockpit.
So there is still that possibility. One of the Wall Street Journal article points this out is it's not impossible at this point that another person came in. That wouldn't be on the flight data recorder if there was some kind of intrusion?
It would be picked up by the mics on the cockpit voice recorder, but it probably would not be indicated on any of the data. The data is basically showing what the controls were doing, the control inputs, what the outcome of those control inputs are, but it's not going to show someone breaking in a fight in the cockpit.
I do have to ask, if there is a pilot who wants to do something like this, what kind of safeguards are there in place to keep someone from bringing a plane straight down?
So, I mean, the first thing, pilots are probably the most scrutinized group of professionals in the world. You know, they get annual screening, they get psychological screening, but also they work in very close proximity to other people every day, and they're observed constantly. However, pilots are also human beings. So until there's actually technology that will prevent a pilot from crashing an airplane on purpose, there is that possibility. Now, after Germanwings, where the co-pilot had intentionally crashed the airplane, and remember from that case, when we got the cockpit voice recorder, they showed that it was banging on the cockpit, that he was breathing all the way through. So that indicates to the cockpit voice recorder. But now, there's always supposed to be two pilots in the cockpit, with the idea that the other pilot would prevent the pilot from crashing the airplane on purpose.
Yeah, there's pictures of the aftermath of Germanwings. It was so hard to recover that plane as it crashed in the mountains, and these are some of the pictures there. You just talked about the co-pilot, the idea that there is someone else in there. Is there some way to have one person watching the other and give that person some agency to stop it?
Well, that's what they're supposed to do, and there was an event on a JetBlue flight where one of the pilots kind of lost it, and the other pilot locked him out of the cockpit and was able to safely land the airplane. So the idea that two people are in the cockpit at all times is a very important safety feature.
As we said, there is the flight data recorder, this information from the Wall Street Journal coming from that, waiting to see if we do learn more from the voice recorder.
Absolutely.
Justin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.